We spoke about this guy yesterday. This is Glenn Beck's historian. His name is David Barton. He's as uber fundamentalist a Christian as you can possibly get, and he has some more ideas he'd like to share with us.
So we have come into the point where the Great Commission now means say the sinner's prayer rather than Jesus, who said, you teach them everything I taught you. Well, if you do that, you got to get into no-fault divorce in Matthew 19. You've got to get into due process, because in John 8, Jesus says, woman, where are our accusers? Which is why we get the right to confront our accusers in the Sixth Amendment. We took that right from Jesus. I mean, if you're going to do everything Jesus said, then we've got to get into economics. We've got to get into employee-employee relationships. We've got to get into contracts. He covered all of that. And so if you don't get God back into business, back into media, and by the way, in the 1960s, you could not bring a movie out unless the church approved it. The church said on the editorial boards in the 1960s, and we said, oh, we shouldn't be involved in secular stuff. Guess what? We've given all that over. See, until we get back into saying, you know, I've got to have a biblical view on computer programming. I've got to have a biblical view as a business, a chamber of commerce. I'm a leader in chamber, whatever it is.
A biblical view on computer programming. You know what a biblical view on computer programming is? To have no computers, because they didn't have computers when they wrote the Bible. So how the fuck could they weigh in on it? I mean, could you imagine what a biblical computer would look like? You take a giant rock and a chisel and you make a fake keyboard. And then you hit it with a club. Blah, blah. That's what we're talking about here. But listen to this fool. He wants the church to approve movies. Oh my God. How insanely boring would every single movie be? Hollywood would be useless. Could you imagine if every single movie had to be approved by a panel including Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee? Every movie would include hating gay people, hating abortion, and reinforcing Jesus being God, and none of it would have any entertainment value whatsoever. You can't do any car chases, you can't do any fighting, you can't do any shooting scenes, you can't do any romance scenes because that undermines the morality of man-woman marriage, and you'd have to get married before you do any first kiss or anything like that. It would be every single show would be Leave It to Beaver, except more boring. I can't believe people like this still exist, man. The thing is, it's one thing if you're religious and you stay in your lane. So you're religious, but you know it's just your opinion, and you don't try to pretend like it's factual because it's not factual, you can't back it up. And you say, well, look, religion has its place in society, and it's not like we should run the government based off of religion. That's something totally different. Of course, that should be secular and based on democracy and rationality and logic. But he's saying, no, we also want our religion to completely take over the government. Well, then we would just be the Christian version of Saudi Arabia. And this is why we call you the Christian Taliban. These guys wonder, they get outraged when we call them the Christian Taliban, as if we're making it up. You're telling us that's what you want to be. You want the Bible involved in business and the Bible to create all the different laws. You know, I could sit you down and you could have a conversation with an ISIS fundamentalist terrorist and an Al-Qaeda operative, and you would agree with them on many things. I mean, you would agree that only the Holy Book should run everything. You would agree on gay rights. You would agree on abortion. You would agree on the role of women in society. They should know their role and stay in the kitchen. You would agree on science in the sense that you teach the biblical stuff in the science class or the religious stuff in the science class alongside evolution. These guys, it's so funny because these are the guys who scream the loudest about fundamentalist Muslims. Meanwhile, they fucking agree with them on like half the stuff. Just instead of Allah, it's God, and that means the same thing. Instead of Muhammad, it's Jesus. But they wear it on their sleeve, man. And it's amazing to me that these guys still think that they're a legitimate part of the conversation. Dude, you're done. You know, your heyday passed in the year 1237. I mean, you're back there in the Dark Ages. I mean, where are you going after you do this segment with this conservative clown? You're going to watch a witch burning in Salem? Just step aside and let the adults run the country and let people who care about reality make decisions. I mean, the world we would live in if this guy was in control, if you really want to abide by the Bible and make that the law, you'd have to ban barbershops because you're not allowed to cut your hair. That's an abomination in the eyes of God. You're not allowed to shave. Sorry, Gillette, you're out of business. And the list goes on and on. You'd have to ban pork. You can't buy pork. You can't eat pork. You'd have to ban fish markets because all shellfish are gone. That's like a quarter of their business or 50% of their business. I mean, not only that, and I haven't even brought this up yet, but an economic system we would be way more liberal than even I want. I mean, Jesus was anti-rich people. He wanted nobody to be rich. Nobody. Okay, I think that's too liberal. I mean, this guy is way to the left of Karl Marx, and he doesn't even know what Jesus' economic philosophy is. He wants to use the veil of Jesus to implement right-wing economics. So in other words, he doesn't even want just a religious system. He wants a system based on his interpretation of his religion. In other words, he just wants to be the fascist dictator and make the decisions for everybody in society.